Since the reintroduction of the Water Resources Bill, there had been criticism from different quarters, with many accusing the federal government of trying to seize absolute control of water resources in the country.
Critics of the bill allege that if passed into law, it could deprive Nigerians access to potable water, empower the federal government to deploy water resources. However, it pleases and could even incite water wars. But the federal government says these suspicions are baseless, as the Water Resources Bill is designed to benefit all.
It adds that the bill will ensure that the nation's water resources are protected, used, developed, and controlled in a sustainable way, and as well as create the opportunity for public-private partnerships. Joining us now is lawyer and public affairs analyst Gani Fani. It's nice to have you join us in the studio.
Good morning, Raymakers.
It's a blessing.
Well,
I wish I were one, you know, so you can determine when rain will fall on some persons like this, you know, my friends.
Me?
No, we call it blessing.
Right.
You remember?
it is
All
part
right.
of water.
Fine.
Yes.
And it's the basis of water anyway.
Right.
But fella says water doesn't have enemies. So
yes.
anyway, you're welcome to the studio. It's nice to see you.
Thank you.
Great. Now, this Water Resources Bill,
Yes.
make us understand basically. Government has argued from their perspective that this is the best thing that would happen to water resources and management in the country. But Nigerians, on the other hand, says no. So at the point of engagement, there don't seem to be an understanding. Why is there so much controversy around this Water Resources Bill?
Yes, it is quite unfortunate because people seem to have lost confidence in the intention of government. And people are also apprehensive of the fact that the federal government is interested in seizing land, and particularly for Ruga. You see, it's very unfortunate. You know, it was raging at the time, the issue of cattle colony, ranches, and so on and so forth. All these issues are now being seen in the perspective of the fact that the federal government is interested in appropriating land for Ruga.
What is the link between water bodies and cattle herding?
Well, we all see it every day that the pastures they are looking for greener pastures. And you can only get it where you have water. So that is the reason why everybody is apprehensive. And moreover, you know that this particular bill was presented in the 8th National Assembly, which was shut down, and suddenly it now came in almost a draconian manner, saying that, oh, there would no longer be even any debate any longer. We are going ahead to do it. 2 days ago, or probably yesterday, the Minister of Information even went ahead to say, nothing is going to stop us. And I'm wondering whether the minister is also part of the National Assembly. Because it should be the business of National Assembly to pass this bill. So everybody is apprehensive, and everybody is also feeling what exactly is the intention of government.
So for you now, it is the manner in which it is being presented that is perhaps generating the suspicion from the public.
Of course, because the federal government, if you look at the constitution that we have of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, which is also a duplication of 1979, you discover that almost 68 items are on the exclusive legislative list. The federal government appears to be interested in virtually everything. And where you have a concurrent jurisdiction between the federal and the state and the federating units, you will see that once it is the federal legislation that will also take prominence,
Exactly.
once there is a conflict. So as it is, every other person is apprehensive that in spite of the fact that the Land Use Act, which is also an enactment of the National Assembly by virtue of Section 315 of the Constitution, which vested all land in all the states in the governance, it's again also through the back door. We are also looking for how to excise part of it and give to the federal government, in addition to all the issues we are talking about. So as it is today, it's not just a question of explaining to people. Rather, I know that it's even ultra-virus the National Assembly to start with, because the National Assembly has no right to make any law to override the Constitution. It's impossible. And by virtue of that Section 315, subsection 5 of the Constitution, the Land Use Act is part of the Constitution.
But we don't see the governors contesting this.
Well, for obvious reasons, because you discover that what we are having in this country is not a federation of a kind. What we have is a unity government. The states are virtually pauperized. You go to Abuja for virtually everything. So I'm not surprised that the governors seem to be probably tired of talking. But I can assure you this one cannot fly. Because if you look at the provisions...
yeah, but the point there is, if the National Assembly has the powers to amend or make any laws and all of that, and the Constitution vests that responsibility on them, and they are about to look at it, how would it be illegal for the National Assembly to make laws?
Okay, I am telling you that by the virtue of the provisions of the Constitution, it's ultra-virus the National Assembly. In 1979, when the military was probably not departing the political scene, grudgingly, I would say, some enactments of the military were also entrenched in the Constitution. You remember that there was a Constituent Assembly prior that time, and that nowhere did they ever recommended the provisions of the Land Use Act, or also that of other enactments, like the National Youth Service Corps. But apparently because the military then was afraid, because it was, some of them were very unpopular, I must tell you, they now decided on their own to entrench it unilaterally. And then a law, a provision of the Constitution also backed it that, look, this is part of the Constitution. And by 1999, it was just lifted. And that's what we have as Section 315, subsection 5. So the agencies like the NYSC, like the Land Use Act, is part of the Constitution. So you cannot make any law now to come and override any part of the Constitution. It's
is that why you say it will not fly? Because the minister is insisting this will go ahead.
I am telling you, just an application in court will set it aside to start with. Apart from the fact that we don't need to be provocative with any law. This one appears to me to be very provocative. Land, we know it as something very sensitive, particularly ancestral land and the rest. The provisions of this water bill that I've seen, is so that anybody can come from anywhere and say, look, I want to possess the land in your community. And way back, long ago, all lawyers, elementary lawyers will know about it. There had been a decision, Amadou Tijani, against Secretary Southern Nigeria, saying that land belongs to the dead, the living, and the yet unborn. So there is always an emotional attachment to land.
Absolutely.
Particularly ancestral land. Never mind anybody who says, oh, do you like, is it your ancestral land you like or your life? It's a continuum. If you are in court, if you drop dead in a matter that involves land, somebody will replace you. The interest is continuum, be inclusive of the unborn. So that's why I said, I don't believe if we are running a democracy, and we are not running any autocratic government. So if the people say we don't want a thing, the best thing is for the government. You can't like us more than ourselves.
Right.
So there must be no conflict.
All right.
Nobody will come to my place and possess the land in my vicinity and say federal government gave me the right. So that's why I say it won't fly.
Okay.
Now the government is saying that why the law is being repackaged is because because of necessary modification to bring them in line with current global trends, as well as best practices in integrated water resources to ensure professional and efficient management of all surface and groundwater for use of the people. That is what government is saying.
Unfortunately, people don't believe.
But then, talk to us what it has been before this. Have we been professionally managing this to the benefit of the people?
Who is complaining?
Nigerians have complained of not having access to potable water over time.
Then they complain to their state governments. I don't see that until when this thing is unified in Abuja, that it is then it's going to be efficient and going to be extremely very productive. The experience we have had so far if we have to tell ourselves the truth, is that most of the items in the constitution of this country that are placed at the center in a unified form, they've all been suffering from attention.
But have the states done any better?
Well, even if they haven't, because all we want is that people are scared of whenever we see the tendency to muscle down the states. Because we are talking of water, we are talking of land, which by law, they are vested in the state governors. For now, we see a tendency of avarice on the part of the federal government wanting to take over. And from experience, it is seen that it is going to create bottlenecks. In addition to what we have been having now, what we are advocating is devolved power.
Right.
Yes. Enough of pretense. We have a federal government.
All right, now...
It's not, but what we have in reality is a unity government.
Okay, if you have to break it down for us, there's the Land Use Act,
Yes.
which was provided for, and the state governments are in charge of all lands within their jurisdiction.
Very
but
good.
Talk to us, how does this new Water Resources Bill contradict the Land Use Act in true terms?
To start with, the Constitution is a ground norm. The law, all other laws are subject to the Constitution. Everywhere where you have a Constitution. So, and by virtue of the Land Use Act, which was an enactment of the military, when they were departing, they had already entrenched it as part of the Constitution. And for that reason, there's no legislation that can query or amend that aspect of the law, just like every other provisions in the Constitution. The suspicion, as we are talking right now, you will see that the suspicion is along whether you are in the south or you are in the north. The issue is that preceding this time, there has been the issue of cattle ranch, Ruga, or what have you, cattle colony and the rest. People are of the opinion that, look, this is an aspect. Particularly if you read, for instance, Section 2, subsection 1, all surface water and groundwater, wherever it occurs, is a resource common to all people. What's the meaning of that? Who are these all people? Look, so people are suspicious that, look, the federal government is trying to take land, this resource, from the state government and now give it out to a set of people. That's the truth. That's why there's suspicion.
So with government insisting now that it is going ahead with this, what do you see playing out?
Can you imagine now that if government is insisting, we have a democratic government whereby we go and debate, and once a debate is defeated, that's the end of it. That's the essence of democracy.
Right.
So why must the federal government now insist? Particularly, this legislation was defeated in the 8th National Assembly. Now it was brought here, and not just brought here. The person that brought this executive bill said, look, no further debate. We are going ahead. Yesterday, the Minister of Information said, not Minister of Water Resources, who ought to be educating us, and we ought to be interrogating as to the interest of the federal government in this particular aspect. Because this land already is in the state purview. Now you want to take it to Abuja. That's the meaning of it. You create bottleneck and then there's corruption. You want to sink a borehole in your house, somebody tells you where is your license. Then you are afraid. And in my profession,
yes,
we say quick plant at all, solo said it.
Meaning?
Meaning that whatever is attached to the soil is part of the soil. These are things that we have known from time memorial. If you're a lawyer, an elementary lawyer, you know all these things. Juris proverbia.
Okay.
So you know all these things. And somebody is now telling you that, look, I can take it off. Then it continues now to be contradictory in your head. What is the interest?
Well, the minister, in their press briefing, they were assuring Nigerians that if you're using water for your domestic or anything domestic, that there's nothing to worry about. That it is at the point of using it for commercial purpose that you would need a license.
We have seen things like this before. What is the interest? The interest is that It's the issue of greener pasture. And people have already now, they are now on the edge that you cannot come. This is ancestral. And I've told you that, look, way back before independence of this country, there has been a decided case that has defined what land is all about. That land belongs to the dead, the living and the yet unborn. Ancestral land, in your place, in my place, and everywhere. People are emotionally attached to land. Because immediately you take away people's land, they become slaves. So you can't come and say it belongs to all people. Who are these all people? So nobody, so that's why there's suspicion. And when you see the suspicion, it's along the fact that whether you are from the north or you are from the south. So this, like I said, is also ultra-virus the National Assembly to be making law that is going to be in conflict with the provisions of the Constitution.
Okay. So are we looking forward to anyone going to court for this?
To challenge this?
No, to start with, they are still at, no, it has not been signed to law.
Okay.
But I can assure you several persons are waiting.
Okay.
In fact, to start with, let me assure you, there's nobody in the National Assembly, whether in the Senate or the House of Representatives, that comes from the South, that will support it.
All right.
So it's a bit divisive.
Okay. Let's see how things pan out at the end of the day. Gani Fani, thank you
very much.
Time
thank you very much.
On the breakfast
Thank you.
show.